Welcome back to Stuck in the Middle podcast in collaboration with Palm Wine Central Podcast. This is another book club episode. Again, welcome. This is a podcast where we navigate the messy, confusing, and sometimes hilarious moments of life, usually with a good book to guide us. Today, we're deep diving into the book that promises to change the way we connect, understand, and maybe even argue less. Jefferson Fisher, The Next Conversations. Argue less, talk more. Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking, well, that could have gone better? Or perhaps you're stuck in a communication rut with someone important in your life. Fisher's book tackles these challenges head on, offering practical tools to transform awkward silence and heated exchanges into meaningful connections. Jefferson Fisher is a communications expert and trial lawyer whose unique background gives him valuable insights into how our words shape our relationships and outcome. In this episode, we'll explore the core messages of the next conversation, examining Fisher's key techniques for better communication. We'll cover everything from handling difficult conversations to building confidence, while sharing our own reflections on breakthrough moments from the book. Let's start like this. We got a new member, y'all. Hannah, how you doing? Welcome to the book club. If you wouldn't mind to introduce yourself to the crew and our listeners.
Hello. My name is Hannah. I live in Michigan. I am a fellow book lover. I'm a physical therapist, and I'm really happy to be on here. I don't know what else to say. I've been listening to the podcast for a while, so it's really cool to see, I've seen the clips, obviously, but to meet y'all virtually, in person, virtually, it's cool. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, so she got an episode with Manny. They're talking OT, PT stuff, since they're both in that field, they, exchanging notes and things like that. So go check it out. Plug in your podcast, by the way.
Oh, yeah. It's called Bent Pages and Bending Bodies. So half of it is about PT and kind of OT related things, healthcare, while the other half is actually about book club stuff. So, yeah.
Nice.
Wonderful. Welcome to the platform. Anyways, Tim, how you doing?
Good.
Mane, how you doing?
I'm good. Excited.
Nice. Conversation. Cool. Auntie True, on the clock. Wow, for somebody whose birthday 4 hours ago, you are lounging like you already have or drunk or something. Like, what's good?
Sorry, I'm a little delayed today. I'm doing well. I hope everybody's doing great too.
Nice. Josie, how you doing?
Well, thank you. Excited to be back. I feel like I was gone for a while.
Yeah, so.
Oh, really? I thought you were still in Spain. You're back in
Barbara, how you doing?
Happy Saturday, guys. I'm wonderful. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Yes, my background. Yeah.
Yeah, so, man, let's get into it. Since we've, touched base a little bit, I want to see how you guys are feeling there. But it seems as though you guys are not trying to bring the excitement. So let me bring the excitement like this. You understand? The next conversation. I'm pretty sure a lot of you, reading this book, you're probably kicking yourself, if you're sitting down, you're probably kicking the corner of your, your bed or your table, like, bro, who is this guy talking to? You know what I mean? Like, why is he talking to me? There's a lot of lines in the book that I'm pretty sure you could relate to it at some point in time, right? You can, either it's you or somebody else, right? But you can literally relate different key moments within the book to your personal life. So let's get into it. Let's start like this. What is the core message of Jefferson's The Next Conversation?
I think the core message of this book is that we might make mistakes in conversations. However, there's a plan to make the next one better, and to kind of correct the mistakes that happened in the previous one. I think he goes over so many different strategies for how to process things in the moment, for not having another bad moment, and just kind of trying to get your point across correctly. He uses a lot of different strategies and examples to portray that. So I guess I just think that the core message is just how to communicate better and how to not always, fight with somebody when you're trying to get your point across. So it was a really, really good read, honestly.
Mane, at what point did you realize that conversations this shouldn't be a battle, right? It should be two people wanting to understand each other for the better good.
I would say, from personal experience, I'm not into arguments. Like if there is like a heat, I would want to walk away first before figuring out how to have the conversation. Not to say that it necessarily means it turns out perfect, but from my standpoint, I have the ability to hit where it hurts. I have this sense of treat people the way you want to be treated. So my thought is, if you're treating me this way, it means you can handle it. So I had to learn from experience that not necessarily, and just because someone is feeling a certain way, it's not necessarily in regards to me. So in the book, when he made the statement, "What triggers you teaches you," being as the second time I'm hearing that from a author, it was hard to swallow. It was hard to process because I still have a hard time understanding that what is triggering you is teaching you something. So that's the point. I also felt like hearing it the second time from a completely different author, I felt like I needed to sit with it. I needed to accept that, even though I don't understand what it actually means. I need to maybe hear from somebody else's perspective what they understand by that statement. Because in the moment of trigger, I don't know that you're like, okay, what am I supposed to learn in this?
I'm pretty sure we'll get, to that question. Though I'm curious as to what you came up with, but let me jump to somebody else real quick. Therese, the key concept of this book, for me reading the book, it was all about not winning arguments, right? Like winning an argument, it's as much as losing the argument, right? Or losing the game in general. So, this is the first time you've heard this concept? If it is, what was your reaction once you first read it? If it's not, is this something that you've adopted on your day-to-day or not? Why not? Why?
It's not the first time that I'm hearing about it, but it's the first time that I think I'm hearing someone put words to it, because it's something that I came to realization on my own, where in my relationship I realized that us winning was better than me winning the argument. That makes So that was how I was like, okay, I have to give this in order. At the end of the day, what wins is the unit, right? Not this fight. And so it's something that I started adopting. But for him to, you have a concept, something you just do because you found out, and then someone comes and actually puts words to it, and you're like, oh, this is an actual concept. It makes sense, but it would have been hard for me to articulate it. But it's not the first time that I heard of it, and it's something that I stand on 10 toes for sure.
Wait, sorry. Stand on the fact that the argument or not?
That again?
Stand on the fact that you have to win the argument or not?
No, I stand on his.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I think my brain went in and out there for a second. But yeah, anybody has any opposing view to that statement he made?
No, I definitely agree with T in the fact that as a young person, well, this was actually from my grandma, but I was really mad about, somebody, and she just told me, she was like, you don't have to always have the last word. And I feel like that's kind of like what he's saying in this, like, you don't have to win that argument. And I feel like I've carried that throughout my teen and adult life. So when he put a name to that, I really connected because I was like, okay, this is what she was saying, so I was just going to piggyback off of T.
And I wanted to piggyback off that as well. I feel like kind of tying what you first asked, what is the core message of the next conversation? Winning an argument is a losing game. And I feel like when people are arguing, they're arguing to win and not understand. And I really like the fact that he brought that up in the book, because we need to build bridges when we're having conversations. And when you're not building a bridge to have a conversation, he mentioned that when you leave an argument, you feel tense and you feel like you lost something. And I've never been in an argument where I felt like I gained something. I feel like in that moment, I lost some respect for you. I lost some kind of love or care for you. And it's never good when you leave an argument. Even if you may have the last word, your last word is still going to, affect whatever relationship you have with that person.
Yeah, but also too, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, also to you might leave the argument with things being said and left in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say words, you can take them back.
Yeah.
So you might win the argument, but you lost so much and you put so much out. Because when we're angry, we blow up and things fly out. And sometimes the things that fly out are not the things we mean to fly out. So yeah.
I guess that's why he said in that, you always got to remember that the person that's talking to you is not the person you know.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly, right. I never really thought of that, like that, the way he puts it, which, in a sense, for me, it's contrary to many. I love a healthy debate, I love a healthy banter. Like, why not? I mean, it's fun, right? But once emotions, like a lot of emotions start coming into it, that's when it starts taking the fun out of it. It also depends on the individual, right? There are some individuals that can carry a conversation and not necessarily bring their emotions to it. And there are some that will bring their emotions from the inception all the way to the end. So does it matter who you're talking to, or is this just something that's supposed to be in general?
I think it matters in the sense of like how that conversation is going to go, right? How it's going to, what trajectory it's going to take. And to this, and I learned this, what you just mentioned about the person you're talking to is not who you know. I read this in another book. It was talking about like when you're loving somebody, right? There's this thing they're talking about where it's like the person that you always address and you love is always going to be that person's inner child. And so whatever that person has carried, their experiences in life, at any point in time when you're talking to that person in front of you, you're talking to all those people. Their 5-year-old self, their 15-year-old self, their 20-year-old self, all the way. You're talking to all those different versions of that person. So if you're looking at me as the 30-year-old corporate woman and I'm acting out of character, and you're like, but you're talking to a whole bunch of other versions of me standing in front of you. And so I think that's why conversations differ with people, and it would matter to whom you're talking to. So if you're talking to somebody who still has baggages from all those versions, it's definitely gonna go south.
That's deep.
Yeah. And just rephrasing what he said was, the person you see isn't the person you're talking to. To go correct myself.
And I think kind of relate, well, based on experience, something that happened 2 weeks ago. So somebody made a comment and I said, okay, because sense that comment to me was coming from somewhere else. And I did not want to engage in a conversation. So that was a Sunday. We hung up. Monday, I woke up to a text message saying, if you want to process what I said yesterday, let me know. I said, no, I don't want to. 2 days later, the same message, but longer with more words. So it said, if you want to. At this point, I was like, okay, if it's a conditional, if you want to. I didn't want to, so I didn't reply because I made my point the first time. 5 days later, I woke up to a very long message via WhatsApp. First, I was like, oh, is this AI generated? But long story short, I could sense that the person sending this message. So I was trying to address the message that was being sent, but something else was boiling. And long story short, in the end, I still just said, okay. But it was hard to have that conversation about things. Because when I first said I didn't want to talk about it, I just wished they respected it. But when it kept unfolding, so when he made that statement that the person was talking to is not really the person that she's seeing. It was like, oh wow, let me think about that until now, and now it makes sense. But yeah, it was eye opening. I mean, it was a hard conversation, which I wish I didn't have because, like I said, I knew how I was on my phone. But yeah, that's why I was talking to myself in the first two chapters. But after that, I was okay. Everything else was good.
So I guess my question, to all this is, let's say you don't engage, like you didn't engage in the conversation, right? So do you hold them accountable for what you didn't engage into, or you just let it go and your friendship moves on as it's been?
No, the friendship actually, well, because her last statement was, I'm ending this in peace, because she sent a voice note. Now, there was a thing about tone. There was kind of like a trembling in, and that's the thing about me. As I think part of it is built from, I grew up, my youngest brother was born with a developmental disability. As a therapist, you observe body language in addition to what people say and how they say it. So I knew that she was just saying peace because peace sounds good, but in her voice, it didn't sound peaceful. Now, this might sound rude, but I did not have any sad feelings in how it ended, because if you had respected my decision, now if she had said that she wanted to talk about what she said, I would have listened. But to say that if you want to talk about what I said, I didn't want to talk about what you said. So it's like putting the way that you feel on me because I did not engage. It reminded me of a long story where I was dating a guy and the guy was dating some other girl, and the girl called me and she was like, "Oh, I'm pregnant for the guy. You should leave the guy." And I was like, "Okay." And she was like, "You're not going to fight for him?" I'm like, "No, I don't fight over that." So I've had this thing where people are expecting a reaction out of you, and then you don't give it, and then they make it not look like it is your fault that you're not meeting them in a certain level of argument. So yeah, it was hard, but that book kind of made it okay. It is what it is. I don't regret how I handled the conversation, even whether it was peaceful or not. Whatever it is.
He also mentioned something about that in the book, about how people will gaslight you into reacting the way they want you to react. Yeah, and when you don't give them the reaction, I might not get the exact phrase, but they feel left out or something. If feels like you have diffused their energy, the negative energy they are bringing in, because you did not give the response, you've diffused it.
And she literally said, yes. I feel like you dropped me. I wasn't holding you up. Like, dropped you how? And I said him on Twitter, and I said, if you want to have the conversation, I'm listening.
Yes.
But don't make it look like I want to have the conversation, which I said I didn't want to have. But anyway, like I said, books, the timing of the book was good. I wrestled with it, but I'm good.
Let me add something to what Manet said. So in general, right, to tie how your initial question, that what was the whole purpose of the book, I watched the interview he did, and he said when he said arguments are not meant to be won, is in general when we talk about people, especially an argument, the goal of him saying that is that you want control. You get into that conversation, and once you apply the principles he tells you, is about you controlling, not losing, and you're getting to understand the other person that you're talking to. He said often in reality, in general conversations, that what we say to people is what we are to those people. That in like a regular conversation, you're sometimes, because like, for example, I just met Hannah. This is the first time I just met her. We've never met. She doesn't know me. Her initial impression of who I am is just based on the conversation she has with me right now. So whatever I say, she's going to frame that into that ball game, because she doesn't know me. I don't know if I'm going to meet her afterwards. So especially, to add to what Mana was saying, it's all about control of your emotions, control of the situation. So your point is heard clearly, and you get to hear the other person, whatever the other person is saying.
See, Manny, you're sharing some heavy things today.
I could go on, but I'm in a good headspace now. But 2 weeks ago, oof, the heat in my head could have blown up something. Because I think there's a lot of self-awareness that has gone me to this point, because you can almost see the end from a comment that somebody makes. It sounded like projection. And before that comment was made, other things had happened. And it may have seemed like I was making assumptions, maybe why I didn't share what I was observing. But when that comment came up, okay. And I think you mentioned something in the book where you pause and then you give like a one word. I learned about pauses from a different book. And people have told me that my silence or my pauses can be controlling. Part of it is really me trying to process what has been said, to make sure that maybe I'm not processing this with my feelings, or me trying to process is going to give the person maybe more time to correct what they said or add to what they said or anything of that sort. So when I paused and I said, okay, and then I hung up. When I woke up to the next day, she sent me a text, and I was like, oh, maybe she sat with what she said, and she wanted to say it differently or explain it. And that's all she had to say. Just say, oh, I want to explain what I said yesterday. Don't text me saying that, oh, I'm open to listening if you want to talk about it. I said, no, I don't. I don't want to talk about it. Another thing is that people say I use very few words to express whatever I want to say, because attention span has dropped over time. So if you want to hold somebody's attention, state what you want to say straight to the point. Even in therapy, you tell the patient, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And they'll be like, yes, then you go ahead and do it. Don't just, but yeah, it's, I guess life is what it is. So you live and you learn.
Okay, that reminds me of the example of the guy whose mother was going through, I don't remember his name. He had it. He didn't like lawyers because I guess there was something that had to do with his mother's estate, and he came into the conversation and he was a little bit aggressive and they couldn't figure out why, and he made a statement to the lawyer and he threw him off. And so he said he had to practice. He paused for a second and then he rephrased the questions, and when he rephrased the questions he realized that the man was projecting his frustrations that other people or the lawyers that he came across had imposed on him, and all he needed was just a little comfort. And once he got over that, instead of, because they were going back and forth, but instead of him going back and forth, he paused, figure out whatever the trigger, I guess that trigger word, whatever was triggering him, and once he was able to overcome that, they get to where they were going. So yeah, your story literally just took me to that point in the book that, oh, that's the example he was talking about. He just used a different approach.
Yep, light bulb went off when that story landed. I was like,
yes, like
that's just right along, perfect segue, to talk about silence within effective communication. Like some people think silence is disrespectful, or define silence as, something like hurtful, but sometimes silence does not mean I'm thinking ill. It's just like Manny said, processing, or just don't got nothing to say. So, Chuchu, for you, what's the importance of silence in communication? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
That when I found myself in any kind of conflict, I would talk, but it would come off defensive. So over time, I've learned to just be quiet, because that my initial reaction is to defend myself, and it doesn't help a conversation in any sort of way. So now I've just learned to be quiet and learn to listen and process my thoughts later, and then come back to the conversation if they're willing. If not, I carry on and I just let it go, because at that point I've already digested everything.
How does that help with your confidence?
That's a very, very good question. How it helps my confidence is that I'm able to think clearly with my words, because if I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody and we're going back and forth, I'm gonna be very shaky. I'm already a nervous, angsty person. So when I give myself time to be able to process my thoughts, I can speak a little bit more clearly and not overcompensate my words. Kind of like what Mana said, like attention span has dropped. By the time I'm over explaining myself, it doesn't help in any kind of way. So it's better for me to just take time to be able to debrief, think clearly, and then choose my words wisely so that I can be able to convey my feelings or my response a little bit more clearer.
Okay. I think now, just sitting here and reflecting, I think my silent response to certain conversations I've been having past couple days are the reason why they think I'm being disrespectful. Because, I had a conversation early today, and the person threw that word at me. And I sat back and wondered, I didn't say anything. I just said, okay, that's fine. I'll talk to you later. How is that disrespectful? Because I didn't give that expected response, that blow up, that show, that I would say they didn't see the hidden face. I guess that's what it is. I didn't give them that chance to see the hidden face. The hidden face. I went back and dealt with that, and just didn't have anything to say because there's not much to say. So yeah, so I think silence can be powerful, but also too, though silence means consent. So you also have to know how to use it. For me, I'm very particular about what I say. Sometimes I end up not saying what I want to say because I'm very sensitive. So I always send that out to people and say, you know what, the same sensitivity I extend to myself, I extend it to others. So I watch what I say. Sometimes things don't come out the right way, but I try to not say it. So then that way, you know, you can hold me to it. That's it. So yeah. So silence, I think, is my default. I might go home and talk to my chair, but
I go home and talk to ChatGPT.
Go talk to my chair, or just maybe on the drive home, try to respond to the person the way I wish I had responded in the nick of time. And at that point I'm thinking it wasn't that bad. Well, I wanted to say it wasn't that bad. So, but yeah. So yeah, I'll say silence is powerful, and I understand where he's coming from with it, and I agree with him.
Now I'm just
Can I ask something before you move on to Chuchu? And sometimes it's not more so what we say, but what we don't say that affects us, right? Have you ever found yourself in like that situation where you never got to say what you wanted to say, but then it affects you even more than what you would have probably said? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, all the time.
I was about to say that. Do you?
I
was about to say, do you walk away, right? Just like Joseph said, you are driving, and then now you're cursing everybody on the road when you could have just mentioned what you had to say then.
And that energy festers.
Right. So yeah. So when you guys do that, what's the difference? I beg, help Tia and I, because now.
Okay. So piggybacking off of what he said, so it ties back somehow to being assertive. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes your silence could just be you just afraid of what the response will be. But then at the end of the day, your assertiveness will build the barrier that you need to be placed. Because when you're silent, the person feels they have gained an inch into your space. But if you had said what you said at that time, said it, got it off your chest, one, you might go home and feel like, crap, I shouldn't have said that. But the person has received the information, and that barrier has been placed. So the next time they come at you with a conversation in a similar manner, they know that, oops, there's a boundary there, there's a barrier there, be careful. Because if you go that route, you're going to get shot. Not shot, but you will get placed in where you need to be. So don't get too far. Don't get into her personal space, because she will place you in where you need to be. Yeah. And personal experience, I deal with that with family. There are some family members who you out of respect, you are silent in your conversation and arguments with them. But then on some days, you want to be assertive and let them know, you know what, I understand and I will try my best to be respectful, but this is exactly how I feel when conversations like this come up. So, can we not have them? Or can we restructure the way these conversations are had? Because I am silent, not because I want to, but out of respect. But I feel like because I'm always silent, you feel this is a norm and we can always go here. But this is not the way I want to respond to this. Yes.
Okay, so there's something that he said, right? It depends when they said the silence, it depends the duration of it. He said silence is an absence of sound, not an absence of communication. Often when he says when you say something, right? Let's say I'm having a conversation with I'm gonna take Chuchu, and Chuchu just say something crazy. You pause for a second. That often, if you're silent, like it's because Chuchu said it, Chuchu expect me to be like, "Are you mad?" Kind of respond. But if I don't respond, I pause and then I repeat back. So, Chuchu, did you intend to be disrespectful? Say the thing that you say, or repeat whatever you said again to me. So it allows Chuchu to think about it. That silence is not you're not communicating. It's just you're just not talking for that second to allow both of you to process whatever it is, and then now you're gaining control back of that situation, and then you're like, okay, let's get let's get this conversation to an outcome that is beneficial for both of us.
I feel like you said, silence gives control. And with that, especially if you see how a conversation is going to unfold, if you decide to pursue it, it doesn't help you in the process. Sometimes I just like to tell people, like, don't mind my silence, I'm just processing. So that way they don't feel like they're left in the unknown of what the conversation could be. And that alone just like gives some people peace of mind, but others, they want to have a conversation like right then and there, like let's talk, let's dive deeper into this. And I'm not that type of person. And that's just my own way of holding my own assertiveness and keeping my confidence. Because if I assert myself into a conversation that I'm personally not ready to have, I'm going to say the wrong things, or I'm not going to be able to communicate my feelings clearly because maybe you may have said something that might have like pissed me off in the moment. Now I'm getting angry at your responses rather than me processing, okay, like, how do you feel? Where's this stemming from? How do I feel? How can I process this? How can we both meet each other in the middle and not feel like we're going to lose each other in the process of understanding each other's feelings and words?
There was something he said, I don't remember if it was in this book or in an interview or his after show, where he said he describes different silence. That sometimes silence is used as a weapon. It actually is. It's like people will intentionally not say something because they know it's going to torture you, so they use that. And that he clarified that that's not the point of when he talks about silence. Like he says, you say a lot less with words. Like when you say less words, it actually communicates. I am one of those people that I'm an avalanche. I will flow because I am heavy on. I want to be understood. I need you to understand me. Like you won't hear me. I am one of them. You will hear me whether I want it to know. But this book was how he's like, you don't have to do that. You pause for a second. And often when it's more like you pausing, it's more you're listening and you're learning. You should absorb more than give out, is what he was saying. Take in and throw out. It helps control. It helps drive the conversation and your point across the way you want it, you intend it. You intend it for it to come across. It drives that point that way.
I like where he mentioned where he gave the breathing exercise. I feel like therapy. I was like, let's do this. But the point I wanted to mention was that he also said that it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the breathing, I think he used breathing as a communication where you take in a inhale and nose and mouth before you speak and all of that. Those were all very good techniques. in order
Actually,
to have
I have like an example of the word you say. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. That I experienced with a was a technician, a coworker. I was trying to show her something, and I guess I was a little bit strong. I said the same thing. I said something, and my manager phrased it in a different way, and she got the message. I came to her. It was something that was done wrong, and it came from the higher ups, so there was a lot of pressure. So I came and I said, I opened the chart and said, you look at it and tell me what you think you see wrong. To me, I was trying to teach her. And her first response to me was, I don't see anything wrong. And then instead of me pausing, that I was reflecting, after I listened to this book and rephrasing it, I was like, come on. What do you mean? what do you mean? The computer says. So it went. So now my manager comes in after I have the banter, because there were a couple of things that got to that point. But thinking about it, my manager said, I said that, okay, I see you did XYZ, and half of the information you did was incorrect, the other half was correct. So show me what it is or where you think you went wrong in this case. And the conversation went different. Mm-hmm. So it was not what I said, it was how I said it, and it took long for me to accept it because I was
you were ready to give it.
Yes, I was, but I had to reflect and say, I was wrong there. So I take it. Yeah. The book told me something.
Let me ask this: does anybody feel like when you read this book, you have like one side of you were like, man, so this is for white people, and then some of them represent who I am as a black person, and then a majority of them, as an African person, I don't even see that shit happening. You know what I mean? Like, did anybody feel that way?
Yes.
Am I the only one? Can you all break it down for me? Because I must be missing something.
So I actually Googled the author to I don't know if these areas I won't be in trouble to see if he was black or white. Because I was like, I mean, the name sounded
very white.
But the first two chapters to me made sense. Some and the rest made sense because I read other books. But at some point I was like, who is the audience? And who is, like, what's the reflection of the representation of the author? I mean, I don't know what made me look him up or what made me think that way, but for some reason some of the information was like,
can you give me like an example of what was?
That's you take a lot of thinking about.
Okay, so Teres, you know how he says when you're in an argument, a heated argument, let's say I'm having an argument with you that you say something out of pocket in a thing like this, and then I come back, and your natural response as a grown up is that, why did you say that? No, he said you should say, can you walk me through what it is that you said, or walk me through your thought process? I took that and I applied it to myself. I used it today, and this person, Hispanic, that mommy looked at me like I was crazy when I said this. Walk me through this process. She looked at me like, what? So no, it don't work. Or let's say, for example, I will use Chuchu because she's a baby sister, and Chuchu and I were arguing in my African accent, and then Chuchu says something. I come and sit, and then in my head it doesn't make sense out there. Chuchu, walk me through your thought process. You see how I'm reflecting? It's not making sense. It really so. I think there's the principle applies generally, but if you want to put it culturally, coming from how we were brought up, generally, I want to say Africans, we are a lot more assertive and a lot more direct in the way things go, and that's how we're brought up. So it's kind of hard for you to incorporate that into your day-to-day conversations. It's very difficult. You can.
Doesn't that tie to your point earlier where you say it's not what you say but how you say it? You don't have to use those exact words to apply that principle. You know that, right? True, the wordings may not work for everybody, but I think that the concept of it still applies. You don't have to. It has to be how you use it. Don't you see it that way?
I guess
I
that's
think-
why I find it hard to see, like, I couldn't see the vibe that everyone's talking about.
I have an example.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Like, take for example, like me and my dad are having a conversation, and I thought about this before because I wanted to do this, and I was talking, I was saying something, and my dad interjects, and he starts talking, and if I say, "Let me finish my thought first, Dad," or "Hold on, Dad," like he's literally gonna look at me like I'm crazy, and he's gonna continue to talk. That I feel like I can apply that in an African household.
And then when
Like what?
you try to explain again, he'll be like, "What?
Yeah. What did I just say? Yeah, exactly.
I'll talk to you later." Hangs up.
Yeah, literally things like that. I don't feel like when you try to like redirect a conversation or finish your sentence in our culture, as the youngin or the child, you have to shut up and let them finish their thought. And listen, if you say, "Let me finish my thought first," they don't know what that means. They don't know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, or better yet, me for example, right? Silence is cute and all. Let me not catch you. Like, we're trying to solve something and you decide to pick silence in that moment. Why? Like, you could have picked silence any other day, any other time. Why this particular moment you picking to choose silence? Like, what is that supposed to solve here? So are you choosing silence now to bring this conversation up tomorrow when you have the time to solve this right now? Okay, now you bring it up tomorrow and I choose my own silence. Then what now? Since we so want to be picking silence when we know there is something on the table to rectify, to solve, and everything, we're picking silence. Like, why? So, I mean, when I read that part in the book, I was like, yeah, this nigga crazy. Like, please. But I see the importance of it. I see the importance of necessary silence, especially when an environment is hostile. But some people just abuse it in the name of, I'm grown. No, nigga, you're not grown. You just shied away from the conversation. One, probably because you can't hold your own. Or two, probably because you messed up in that situation. So just either take it or help the other person or help the group solve the situation rather than just picking silence.
I mean, he did say the duration of the silence matters, though. He did. He said how long you decide to keep silent. It's very, very important, and he wanted people to realize that. So,
I mean, who's timing silence?
The person waiting for the answer. The person waiting for the answer is definitely timing the silence.
I think this is how I look at it though. Like if I'm going to have a conversation in the heat of the moment, I know that I will not be cool enough to choose my words. I will not be cool-tempered enough to have a reasonable conversation. Like the example he gave of, I think it was a hypothetical example where a man was trying to put the daughter to bed and she didn't want to go to bed.
Yeah.
And the mother was like, you have to go. And then, I don't know if she made a comment first or he made a comment first, but now things that they've been holding on to in the past came out. Now, if one person said what they said and the other person just took in a deep breath, I don't think that it would have unfolded the way it did. So if I'm in a conversation and I say that it is not safe for me to have a constructive conversation now, I would hope that the person I'm having a conversation with would understand. Rather than insist on wanting to have the conversation then I say things that I can't take back because I know how my brain works. So if I say what I say and then I say, oh, I'm sorry that I said that, would you take that apology? Or would you rather have preferred that I process my feelings and have that conversation later?
Me personally, I'd rather you say that. Why? Because I'd rather live with the devil I know than the devil I don't know. Right? I would love to know that you have those thoughts in your mind. I would love to know that that's how you feel. Now, does it necessarily change a relationship? No, it does not. But I would love to know that's how you feel. I would love to know if I'm sleeping, you're one of the people that could actually stab me while I'm sleeping.
But that's not the point though. Just because I said what I said because I was frustrated doesn't necessarily mean that that's how I would act.
Correct. but does not.
But because I said it, there is an assumption that, okay, I said it with all this anger. Does that make me an angry person? No,
Well,
I was angry in that moment.
Well, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this. If I was drunk and I said a few things and I come back to senses, you would tell me, oh, those were thoughts that were in my mind at some point in time, right? So if you're upset, where did the thoughts come from? Space? You grab them from your fingernails, your toenails? Like, where did they come from? Because I'm pretty sure the thoughts that you've been thinking about for a while, and now, not that the opportunity presented itself, but the opportunity of an opportunity presented itself, and it just...
But it goes back to the point of how you say it. I can say the same thing in two different ways, but the way you would receive one will not be the same way you receive the other thing, but it is the same information.
Correct.
So it's really about being in a, I don't know if safe temperament is the word, but I can say, okay, say for example, I can tell somebody, oh, hand me that cup, or give me that cup, or please give me that cup. Depending on the person receiving information state of mind, all of those three statements do not sound the same, but it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The end goal is to pass that cup or whatever that thing is.
So when they say okay, and is that spelling? I don't know. Yeah, but those three ones, is that the same thing? I don't think so. It's not.
It's the same message, but I will not receive all of them the same way.
It's the same thing as in my language, where you say okay means so there is something else you want to say. Okay. Okay. So yes, so I get where you're coming from, Mickey.
I get where you're coming from too.
Yeah.
If someone types K, like just the letter K, they're being short with you, obviously. If they say okay, I feel like okay, or OKAY, or OKIE, it depends on the situation. But K, to me, just K, that means you're trying to be short. You're being passive aggressive.
Listen, so, yeah. you have a whole keyboard to use your words. If you cannot use it, I'm not stressing myself to interpret what you mean. If you like, you put K and put a period before the K. That's your business. If you cannot use your keyboard to type what you have, I will wait until you can type. I'm not about to stress myself interpreting shortcut messages. What if the person is, I'm just quickly getting out the car and all I want to hit is an okay. So now you're out there stressing because I sent a K instead of OKAY. I'm not about to do that with nobody. Please, miss me with that.
In a moment of a conversation, right? If you are having a text message conversation with somebody, right, and you guys are talking about something important or you're debating something important, you know tensions are high, you know emotions. You don't tell me that you're in a rush and you're just going to type okay, because no, you know that particular moment. You know what moment we're having. So it's not no passive, or it's not no just walking. No.
Now you've put context to it. Before it was a general thing saying people. I did not know that there was a context of it's in an argument, because I thought it was just a general response that if someone says okay and K, that's it. But if you put context to it, okay, that can have a different interpretation. But in general, I'm not about to start nitpicking. And that's the problem that I personally have with text messaging. I do not like text messaging. It does not properly convey the things that I want to say. Now, if I feel like this conversation is important, I'm not texting you about it. Now, if it's a quick drop information type thing where it's short and sweet and I can put that in words, I will go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I will call your phone, because as much as I can, there's no ChatGPT enough for me to convey all of that. So if it's that important, we shouldn't be on text message to begin with. I'm sorry. That's just my thing. Call my phone.
Let me ask you this. So let's say, for example, you meet somebody and you really like this person, you know what I'm saying? And you find yourself getting attracted to this person and you can see yourself being with this person. and they tell you, even in a general stance, I don't like when somebody texts me okay. You brush it off just because you know in your heart it doesn't mean anything, and that's how you communicate, and you just keep doing that?
No, if you communicate a preference or something, I would respect that. It's not the same thing as just I don't know anything, or you just sent something out of the blues, and now I'm here trying to decode what okay means. No, that's different. That's somebody. If somebody communicates a preference, I have to be able to respect that. It's not the same thing.
But then, so you're saying in the same sense that if you are having a conversation with somebody and you see the importance in that conversation, you're just not texting like you're texting any regular day, correct?
What do you mean?
Meaning that you put emphasis, you put importance on what you are texting, and not just use hand anyhow, willy-nilly. You will put importance to what you are saying, correct? Or no?
Yes, I suppose I will.
Yeah, that's it, right? It's not about being general. It's about putting for lack of a better word, questions on certain things. It's just being human, right? Saying you have, like you said, you have a whole keyboard to spell things out. Why not spell them out? You're in a rush. You don't know where. Are you? Who forced you to respond to that message right then and there? Why can you not wait and respond to it when you listen to rush?
It depends.
You rush and text right then and there.
It depends. Sometimes, okay, so this is a personal thing that happened to me. Someone literally dinged me because of the timing of my response to their message. They were like, "Why did it take you so long to respond?"
Because I'm busy. What? No.
Yeah, no, but then though, you could just say, "Oh, okay," kind of thing. Maybe it is a question. It's a response that is needed for the next step. Right? You could just say okay and move on, and then maybe later on you can go back and say, "Oh, a follow up." But it all depends.
You're saying that in that moment. And sorry, I'm just trying to understand, right?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but I'm just still pressing on it just to really get to the, like when you sandpaper something, you remove all the dirty. So you're saying, even when you're rushing, rain is falling, and you must want to send a text message, there's a difference between these two letters, K and OK. There's a difference in time. Please, how much of a fraction of a second are you missing in just typing the other letter?
So what I'm gathering from your question is it's sounding more like it's a personal preference to you.
No.
That you prefer OK to K.
No.
Because to me, hold on, communication is two ways, right? To you, if I send K, it sounds aggressive. To me, it's probably just okay.
Mm-mm.
So
it doesn't sound. It sounds
no.
Like you're not putting importance, or you're not putting worth into what.
Okay, but to me, it was just a shortcut in typing. It's like me the other day. I was using my computer and I was texting, and it was in all caps locks. And somebody will say, for example, right, caps locks. I've heard that caps means you're yelling.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no difference to me. Whether you are typing in caps or in cursive makes no difference to me at all. Now, the person who is receiving it might mean something to them, but to me, it's just my caps lock is on. I don't feel like changing it. It doesn't mean I'm yelling. But now it comes down to a personal preference. Now, if I see that if it's in an important conversation and I know that, okay, for example, Hannah, she perceives it that way, a personal preference. Okay, if it's the conversation, if we're in an argument, I might go ahead and change it just so she doesn't get it. But that doesn't mean that that's how she can type to me in caps all she wants. I'm not going to interpret it that way because that's just not how I see it. So if it's a personal preference, communicate it, and then if the person violates that boundaries, then I think that I have a problem with it.
Excuse me. When you wake up in the morning in a house filled with people, do you go downstairs without your bra and no shirt because you are T and you are a woman and I just, I'm feeling myself, I'm just go down like that? Or do you put on a shirt, yes, without no bra and go downstairs? Why don't you go down topless? Because, no, it does not matter who is down there. I feel myself that I'm going to go down without the shirt. Why not just do that?
Okay, that's apples to oranges.
Oh my. Okay, no problem.
That's apples to
I
oranges.
think that how do I explain this? Okay, maybe I can explain it in this example. If somebody texts me YWD, I know what it means, but it would take me more than 3 letters to answer that question. So my reply would be question mark. So if you want me to put effort into having this conversation, I would hope that you receiving the answer from me would spell that thing out. Now that is my preference, because one time I was having a conversation somewhere and I stated this, and somebody was like, "Oh, you take life too seriously." That's my preference. Somebody else will be okay with the YWD. That's on them, but I'm not okay with it. So I think that there are certain things in communication or expression that are universally known, but they are not cut in stone. So some people might be okay with, like, I don't like all caps. You text me all caps, I interpret you're yelling. I'm like, why are you yelling? But see, it's actually my first time hearing that you're okay with all. Don't text me in all caps, please. Even if you mistakenly left your, because caps means that you want the letters to be seen.
No, see, I'm used to it because my mom writes in all caps.
I was yelling.
That's different though. That's your mom.
So, and
because
it's not she like got
the letters better, right?
No, she has just my whole life. I don't know why, for some reason, she has always written in caps. So it was on until I got to the US, people are saying caps is yelling. I'm like, I don't understand. I still don't get it till today, but
please.
So we bring it back to who the conversation is with. If I'm in a conversation with my siblings, right? It's whatever, okie dokie, okay, whatever it is.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Why you choose friend from everybody else? Everybody should be the same. Why?
It's different. It's different. Okay, so I can text my younger sister in all caps. She's just gonna call me and be like, "What's going on?" But if I text my colleague in all caps, we're gonna have a work meeting in the morning. There's gonna be a like, "Hey, I got your text message." Something, that kind of thing. So it all depends on who is getting the message, who is on the receiving side.
Okay.
That in all caps to take me to HR. Hannah, I feel like you wanted to say something to you. You kept unmuting your mic.
Oh no, I was gonna say to you, please don't text me in all caps, because that is 100% yelling. But the thing is, like, I feel like how you said, it's just somebody telling your preference, right? So if you were to text me in all caps, I would just be like, "LOL, girl, stop screaming," and just like maybe some laughing emoji, so that that I'm fine for now, but that you would just know it's a boundary. I think I was going to say some other stuff, but that conversation was way back. So,
okay.
This preference thing, I understand the preference thing and all, right? But please, speaking of, like, who wakes up and just say, "Okay, I'm gonna send an email, and because it's my preference, I highlight everything yellow." Why not do that? Because it's your preference. Just write your email, "Dear Therese, how you doing today? I hope it was a great day. Please, you owe me $50. Send it 25 via Cash App, 25 via Zelle. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I need to pay my bills tonight." And then I highlight everything in yellow. And then the ones I didn't want the dollar, I put red and red, and I send it. I keep sending like that. That's my preference. So you just like that because it's my.
I would read it and think that's weird, but it's not going to bother me one bit. I don't know how else to explain it.
I'm not saying that you're supposed to bother, right? I'm saying that.
I would just think, wow, okay, you got time to sit and color your emails. That's really what I'm gonna think.
I think he's getting away from the book in terms of like how you want your point to come across, right? So I think when you're, for example, if you're trying to send an email out, you want to think about how that person is going to receive it, right? So in terms of what you're highlighting, you are trying to highlight the important parts of that email, not just the whole thing because that's your preference, but because you're trying to communicate your point across. And say, no, if you only read what is highlighted, these are the key points of this email. So I think, yes, we can have our preferences for how we want conversation to go, but if we are trying to actually get the point across, we need to be thinking about the other person, like how he says, we're not trying to win the argument. We're just trying to figure out how our message is coming across to them and how that person will best receive it.
I agree with that. Like, stepping back to emails, like, I work in an organization full of Africans, and Africans don't like words. So it's like, when I send my emails as a QA, which has a lot of data in it, I literally will go in and I will bold, highlight the important key points because my emails are lengthy and they're long. And I always make sure that what I want them to understand is bolded and highlighted. And it makes their days so happy. Like, I'll go sit down in meetings and they'll be like, thank you, Chuchu. Like, your emails are long, but I get what you're saying.
See,
So it works. It works.
so let me add to what you just said, right? It's an example of me. Where remember when we were saying the principles really don't apply? In residency, right? During residency, I sent an email to my residency director where I was learning you want them to just focus on the part that important. So I highlighted, I put it in bold and capitalized it. So if they were good, it was a lengthy email. If the only thing they could read was that was the message. Please, I had a community called on me. They said I yelled at my residency director.
It was the caps.
Yes, because of the caps. I almost got kicked out of my residency program. And I literally had to say, I did not know that. I'm like, in my culture, I was just trying to explain. I explained that day. I almost got kicked out of the program of that. So that's something that is not really yes. So
I'm not gonna lie. And whomever sees this and you feel some type of way, maybe it will help you understand why or why not. But this is my thing, rule of thumb. If we are planning to do something and we're all agreeing something, and in our agreement, you decide to use a K versus an OK, you might as well go ahead and do it, complete it yourself, because you have automatically forfeited me out of that. That's that. If you're not going to respect yourself to type like a responsible human being, you might as well go ahead and be doing the thing that you want to do by yourself, because I don't know who the hell you were talking to in the first place. Like, what the heck? You want respect? I'm giving you one, give the same two back. We're talking communication-wise. That's that.
Okay, I think that it's good to express that. If you expressed that desire and then it wasn't reciprocated, I guess that's the word, then it's valid to X out of the, I don't know, communication, conversation, project, and all of that. But to just wake up and be like, oh, I'm not being part of this because you said K, so okay. To some people, it's like, that's not a big deal. Like I said with my YWD, some people find it to not be a big deal, but I find it to be a big deal.
Hey, so trust me, I tell you, the minute you tap that tab, like, yo, can you delete that and retype it back? Like, delete that thing and retype it back there, like how normal people type. I'm not saying shorthand is not good. I use shorthand too. You know, when like if you want to see me struggle in life, come and see me when I'm texting Therese. I always gotta, yo, what's that? What's that one right there? What does that mean? What does that mean? Because I'm also still learning, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know things that, you know, I focus on. Shorthand is the least of things I really, it's fun, but to me, it's not disrespectful. It's just, it takes a lot of time for me to try and decipher. And then sometimes for me to go and ask, I feel like the person that I'm asking thinks that I know too much, so they'll laugh at me for asking, so I don't ask. So I just sit me quiet and I just say, yo, what's this? Just text like a regular human being. Especially the Ks, the OKs, and yeah, those ones are very upsetting. Especially.
But see, he mentions that even in the book, right? Where he says text is good, is a means of communication, but it's not very effective because there's so many nuances and you cannot tell intonation and you cannot tell mood and you cannot tell expressions from text messages. And so I think a good rule of thumb would be if it's very important, just take a phone and call somebody. That way nothing is lost in translations, right? And you can bypass all those nuances that comes with putting trying to convey complex conversations in 140 characters. So I just think it's a good rule of thumb to follow.
An example he gave was when he was texting his mom about the mileage of the car. Now, I when his mom said what she said, I was like, oh, how did she get that interpretation from him saying no, ma'am? I think her question was, do you know the mileage on the car? He said no, and then she said, I was wondering that you would know the mileage on the car, and she said no, ma'am. And then she said the same thing in different words, and I think he said, I said no, ma'am. And then his mom said, I don't like the way you're sounding, or I don't like your attitude. I'm like, how did she get attitude out of that? So he called her and explained, but it helped me understand that sometimes you might send a text without really any, I don't know, intonation or any tone, but somebody would read it and add a tone to it. And and they would receive it, completely different.
Mane, so to add to the text message, that part when she was speaking, right? If you speak to somebody, talk to somebody every day, usually you can figure out a texting pattern. You can figure out like a tone, the conversation, how it goes. If they're angry, you can tell. If they're sad, you can tell. If they're excited, you can tell. If they're just normal, you can tell. So it depends on the conversation. So when he was talking to the conversation with his mother, I said, well, if you text your mother every day, almost every day, you have a way that you guys talk. So if you're not responding the regular way, in her head, she's probably interpreting, what's like something is going wrong. So
that's a lie.
Huh?
That's a lie. That's not. That's a lie.
Babs, I see your point, but yeah. The thing I would have thought that because they communicate every day, because if she had an interpretation of his tone, if he did not have that same, I mean that's why he called to explain. But I feel like I didn't get that tone, but I guess because I don't communicate with the person. But I think what I'm trying to say is that yes, you can get a tone from somebody that you communicate with every day, and you can tell. Like if I'm used to texting okay, the whole four-letter word, and I just drop K, it could mean 1,001 things. It could mean that I typed the O and I wanted to use the autocomplete, and I hit something and it just sends the K. It could mean a lot of things, and it doesn't hurt to ask. But I could not understand that part because it was just straightforward. It was like no, ma'am, no, and then no. Just like when I said I didn't want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it. I had a hard time understanding why that message was not being conveyed.
This is what happened, right? The issue was that this is not the first time it's happening. The son gets what's going on in that moment. The son understands the mother. This is not the first time he's had to make that phone call. That's a reassurance to the mom that, if he leaves alone, then the mom goes about her day thinking, oh, my son, da. So let me make this phone call and just diffuse the brain because I know from history that, my mom actually be, things like that, which is important to know, But let's close this thing out like this, man. We've been going for so long. We can keep going. This book, it's a little trigger. But Anna, how does emotional control during challenging conversations affect their outcomes to you? Then T will go next after that.
I think I've had to learn this a lot in my job because people are in a bad place and they will lash out at you. And so I really have to do the pause. I breathe, I use some silence. I kind of just think about what they're going through. Like maybe they're not lashing out at me, but it's what I represent. And so I just think that when I can stay calm and in control of my emotions, it helps me, like everyone has said on this platform, it helps me articulate my thoughts. And I can still move that conversation forward without the session, falling and crumbling because now they're mad at me and they're not listening to anything I'm saying. I can kind of take a moment and kind of like, hey, look, I understand that you're mad. I understand that this tragic thing just happened to you, but you told me that you have XYZ goals and this is how we have to move forward, right? And so if I can not like, hey, you told me this, and like, if I can just calm it down, and tone, I've learned in my job too, is so important. So if I'm very excitable and, some people have sensory things where it's too much for them, but if I just kind of bring that tone, hey, look, I understand that this is hard for you. It helps resonate better. And it just, like I said, helps make that conversation more productive, make that session more productive. So the pause is great, and then I too can just make sure that I'm not getting flustered and getting more upset and tripping over my own words, because then I look like a fool, or I look like, here's this girl who doesn't know what she's talking about now, and now she's proving it to me. So it's very important in helping keep that conversation going forward.
Can I repeat your question again, please?
You're not piggybacking off of her. Wait, which question?
The question you asked her.
Emotional something question.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't catch it.
Of emotional control. How does emotional control during challenging conversations affect their outcome?
And then while you at it, if you could please discuss how staying calm makes you the anchor of the storm.
Let me know. I don't think staying calm makes me the anchor of the story. Let me know if some are city and cap. Because in the heat of the moment, I am boiling and I want to overflow. But I think the aspect of emotional control for me, I think I'm learning that is the core of communication, right? The what do they call that thing? What drives communication, I'm learning, is not just I speak, you hear, you understand, you repeat back, right? Is that emotional control that goes into your tone? How am I saying this thing? I used to not care about that. And I'm naturally a very blunt person. And I did not care for a greater part of my life how that came out. But then I started realizing that even when it's something beneficial, even when it's something positive, my tone, how I say it, right, from what kind of emotional state that I am having this conversation with this person, goes a long way to affect that person as well, right? So I started learning to deal. So what I do is, if there's a conversation, let me just use an example, maybe it will make more sense. If there's a hard conversation that I have to have with a person, I go ahead, I don't have that conversation until I have dealt with the emotional turmoil that comes with that conversation before I go and have it. Because I don't want my emotions to spill over. And then that becomes the focus instead of what I am trying to say or what we are trying to say, if that makes sense. So someone can tell me something at that moment. I have 1,001 thoughts, but I'll just say, oh, can we talk about this or not? Can I process it? Or I'll just say, I don't have anything to say right now. I will go back, run through it, deal with my emotions about it, right? Just at least that first shock, deal with it. And then I come back because I want that thing I want to eliminate as much as possible my emotions from it. Doesn't always work, but I am trying to incorporate that in my conversations with people.
So I guess my last question to what you just mentioned is, so once you've handled your emotions, what's the point of even going to have the conversation then? Because
that's when I get a chance to hear the other person's perspective. Because I just had that conversation only with myself. And I'm a strong believer in it doesn't matter to me, it doesn't matter what somebody did to me. And I'm just saying this on a one-sided thing, right? It doesn't matter what somebody did to me, I always hear them out. Always. I've made it a habit to always hear the other person out. Even though you might come and tell me some BS story, but I make it a point to always hear you out.
We should call you the Supreme Court.
I agree with that though, because that's a point I'm decided to make, but I would only hear you out if you want to talk.
Obviously, I'm not gonna go.
Yeah, I'm not gonna come to you
right?
and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, would you like to talk about even if I've kind of already had like a final decision on how I'm going to proceed with whatever happened, if you say, "Oh, can we talk? I wanna," I'm like, okay, fine. Like I think that was the core issue with this recent conversation I had, was that if she had said, "I want to talk about what I said yesterday," I would have listened. But to constantly make it like, if you want to talk about it, I want to.
Is she going to
I
listen
think
to this?
Go ahead.
Is she going to listen to this episode? Maybe you should send it to her.
She probably will listen to it and what it
Now,
is.
here's the thing with that your person, right? And it's something that I noticed that I also occasionally do, is that you pass on the accountability of something to another person, and that's exactly what she did. She did not want to be accountable for having a hard conversation, so she pushed that responsibility to you. So that, okay, if money comes, then you, if I push the responsibility or accountability to you, I don't get to bear that burden. So I think that's what people do. So when they come and they tell you something and say, for example, I found out that you're cheating on me, and then you come and you say, do you want to talk about it? Now you're putting that burden on me to fix it. That was a problem that you caused. That's something that's on you. So if you come and you say, do you want to talk about it? You're pushing that accountability to me and putting that burden on me. Now I have to rack my brain about how to hold this conversation. I have to rack my brain around controlling my day. No. So if someone is taking accountability for something that happens, they clearly come to you and say, this happens, I would like for us to talk about it. Do you have the capacity to do that? That's something I also learned. Don't just come to somebody and say, I want to talk about it. I started learning to ask. Even when it's something that is about me and I need to unburden myself, or like I need somebody to talk to, I always ask that friend, like there's something I want to offload on my chest. I'm going through some. Do you have the capacity to listen? Then don't come and push burden or carry your cross. And that's why when you refuse that burden, now she didn't know what to do. Now she's all up in arms and she will go that way. That's exactly what happens.
She actually said, I think she had a therapist. She said, my therapist said the ball is in your court.
The therapist did not say anything.
But I would have said, did you send this exchange to your therapist? Because I'm guessing that you probably told her one side of the story. But I was like, you know what, God, I had said that I do not want to have that conversation. Because if she wanted to talk, I would have just been here and listen. But like I said, my brain is to take conversations to the south real quick. And I'm learning to be. And be like, you know what? I don't want to have this conversation now, but that's how the book was like me, and I'm happy.
I was going to add that, like, with emotional control, it is also tied to self-awareness as well. He did mention that in the book, that self-awareness is one of the hardest traits to overcome. And when you lose control, it's like you're giving somebody else a steering wheel, or you're giving your emotions and how you're feeling at that moment the steering wheel to control how you're feeling. And it doesn't help you present yourself clear. It doesn't help you present your case or help you present yourself clearly. I'm trying to find my words. Present yourself clearly to that person. And now they have like this notion or this preconceived thought of you when you come back to have that same conversation, because then you didn't regulate your emotions. You just let things fly off. And when you come back to have that same conversation, you're going to have a preconceived notion that, okay, like, I know how this is going to go, rather than you already just presenting yourself clearly, having self-awareness of your feelings, your emotions, and having control and having your hand on your steering wheel about how you feel, so that you can be able to convey whatever is going on in your head clearly.
This last part, a bit messy a little bit, messy a little bit. So this last segment is supposed to be a fun segment. I know, he's trying to, get to know each other here. So this part is to get to know each other very well, or what we've heard from each other, and let's see what we can remember. For example, I'll start. What was one thing from the book that you feel like, well, that resonated with you for one, or that you feel like you didn't know before, and then you read it, you're like, I've heard that before, and now I can use this. Like, for example, when T says, does that make sense? In the book, is like, are you telling me what you said? I'm not knowledgeable enough to comprehend what you are saying. For you to repeat to me, does that make sense? Like, Yeah, things like that. So that's my own to T. So everybody find your own. I'm here, use me as example too. Don't worry, take your time, but I'm gone. Who's next?
Can I defend my statement?
Yeah, go ahead.
I always say that because I'm hoping that I articulated what I was trying to say better. Right. And I noticed that I heard that in the book too, and I see how that can come across for someone to say, do you think I can't understand what you're saying? It's more about me, my articulation of that thing. And so that's something.
Oh, and by the way, that's one of those examples, the African, that we were discussing in the start. Because Nigerians, they are fond of saying, "You understand? You understand? You understand?" I'm like, bruv, the thing I've heard in this sentence you have made is understand. What else have you said? But I understand the understanding. So yeah, let's go. But yeah, I just thought that was fun. I had to poke on you.
Damn, that blow hit me so hard I cannot think straight.
You never understand. The minute I heard that part in the book, I wrote it down. I said, T must hear this. She must. Yes. Anyways, that's my own. What's your guys's? Sorry.
I think for me, it's more something I say a lot. When I'll say a lot, good for you. If something happens to somebody, I'll say, oh, good for you. I did not realize it's belittling. According to the book, that when you tell somebody good for you, it's like you're looking down on them. I'm like, hold on now. That is not the intention. That is not what I'm saying. I'm genuinely saying, good for you. I'm glad you're doing this for yourself. I'm glad this is going to be positive. But he said no. Often the other person, I guess he also said how you say it matters. But that the other person can take it like, oh, okay, you're looking down on them. So I'm like, I need to rewire my brain because it's automatic for me. If somebody said like, today, my tech said they were going to do a full body workout, like do a full body transformation. And the next time I see them, they're going to get some boobs and everything else. And I said, the first thing I can say, oh my God, good for you. But right away, I was like, oh, okay. It might look, me saying that when I said it out loud, I can see how to her, she can interpret it as I'm looking down at her, but that was no intention. So that's something I have to work on. It was more me. It was something that I say quite a lot. So that was
for me, I think this one's about me. The whole silence thing, right? I used to use silence as because my attachment style is avoidant. You do something to me and I don't want to talk about it, I just avoid you. And the book was like, oh, silence can be a punishment or toxic or yeah. But before I heard it from this book, I read the book Attachment Styles. So I've been trying to, that's why when I would say that was something would happen and I would say, I'm not in a good headspace to talk about it or I can't talk about it right now. So that's something I used to kind of explain the silence. Now, if I don't really want to talk about it, I would just say it's not something I want to talk about. And my hope is that the other person will respect it. But then I also learned that some people want to deal with it now and now. So my question would be, would you rather handle my in the heat moment or my after the heat, work process moment? But because I used to be, I think I'm a little bit still avoidant. So when I go silent, most of the time it's really because I don't have anything to say or I have something to say, but I don't think that it's important to say. If I don't say it, anybody going to die? So my silence now is more of, it's not really me trying to control or manipulate anything, but because in the past, it was me trying to control the situation or control the outcome. Like AK, you said the point about the person who is calmer is the anchor, or the person who is calmer kind of controls the conversation. I think that's a strength I have, but I'm trying to shift to the side of saying that just because I'm silent doesn't mean that I'm trying to manipulate this thing. Even though sometimes I really want to, somebody will make a comment and then I'm silent because it seems like there's more they want to say. So if I interrupt, then they don't get to see what they want to see. So it's a funny dance, but it was like, okay, yeah, back to me. Fine, I'm working on it.
Yeah, just talk about a good silence, y'all, not a bad silence.
I'll go. Mine, I have kind of two. One of the big things was just cutting down all of the talk. So I talk a ton, like people said, to try to get my point across and just explain myself. And so I'm trying to learn to cut that down. And then the second part, kind of piggybacking off of that, is he said no is a complete sentence. And I love that because I'm definitely one when it comes to canceling, not to like give excuses, but like, oh no, I'm sorry, da, 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 like all this extra fluff. And no is sufficient. Like I don't have to explain myself, just no. So those are two big takeaways for me.
Mine were when he talked about fight or flight. And I feel like I've always lived in a fight or flight mindset. And I like how he explained the anatomy and autonomy of how the body responds to all of those stressors. I had to like Google it, and it's like your heart beats faster, your breathing speeds up, your stomach tightens, cortisol level rises. And when you're in those fight or flight moments, you never really realize like what is happening internally in your body and how to regulate and control those. So what I took away was that to just pause, breathe, and listen to my body, because obviously like triggers are very, very important. And when you are facing a trigger, it's very important to listen to those, because that's how you learn from your triggers. So that the next time when something comes up and that same trigger pops up, you at least know how to respond to that. And that's one of like my big things that I'm working on right now, because when I get triggered, my first thing is to fight. My fight or flight kicks in instantly and I want to crash out. But now I'm learning that when I crash out, it takes me in spaces that I don't want to be in. So one of my biggest takeaway was definitely like the body response, how the body responds to those and what to do when that happens.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to piggyback off the good for you. I remember in college, I would go to, I think it's the counselor, and I would pack my schedule with 4 credits, 16 credits, just overdoing it. And I would go turn in my schedule and he would look at it and say, good for you. And then I would go and struggle the whole semester. So so I have learned anything good for you is not really good for you. Because you're just gonna go struggle. But anyways, long pauses is the one thing that I'm working on. Is being able to pause. And this actually, I was in a deposition sometime last year, and you know, just it made me now sit back and reflect. How was I at that deposition? Was I calm? Did I give my lawyer problems? Like, what exactly? How was I at that deposition? And then the other thing too was no. No as an answer. I feel guilty when I just tell someone no. I feel I have to expatiate, kind of explain, make it worth their while, or make it easy for them to let me off the hook for not being there. Say, oh, I'm sorry I couldn't come, my car is not working, or I don't have gas, or it's raining. Just because then that way it's okay. Because no means I don't care, and I just don't want to be there. But when you give an excuse, it feels like it completes the circle and completes the loop. Now they move on and they're okay. So that's something that I need to learn. Just say, you know what, you don't have to find an excuse or a reason. Just say, I can't come. No, thank you. But I think I appreciate the way he explained it. It's similar to a sandwich. First of all, you say thank you for the invite. You say no, you cannot come. And then you say, oh, thank you so much. I know I'm going to miss the event and I hope you have fun. Everybody's good and moves on. And then I think either this book talked about checking your splinter tone. Was it this book?
Yo, what now?
You're talking about your what?
Checking your splinter tone, which is it this book? Oh my goodness. Okay. So I wonder
He did address being tone. When you say something, if you're communicating the tone of the message and how you say it matters on the other person, on the other hand. He did talk about it, but not, I don't remember splinter tone per se.
Okay. But anyways, what what this conversation, what this book, and listening to reminded me of, or what I picked out of it was, whatever conversation or situation you're in, check your body's reaction, because a good chunk of the time you might be sending out body responses even without saying anything. So your body language might be saying a whole different thing and you're saying a whole different thing. So try to keep the response uniform.
Oh, wait, can I add something to it that I learned?
Go ahead.
All right. I am queen. It's more, the book was like a reflection for me, because I am queen of over explaining. I am headmistress. In fact, I lead that group of over. I will explain myself that you should understand. It's something that I actually struggle with. It's not even like, even people closest to me will ask me, why in the world are you explaining that to me right now? I don't know. I just do it. So what this book is, something that the book said is like, less is more. And I am learning that the less you speak, the more the other person gets it. I actually had a situation with a friend recently, a message that was sent to me, and I had to pause for a second. Like, I don't do that. My natural response is, I will unravel on your ass. Because this person is close to me, I was like, that's my natural response. But for the first time, I just paused and I did not respond. I just kept quiet. And it worked. Said everything else, but did not respond to that particular message. And I'm just like, I'll go back and address it though, but I just did not respond to it, because if I said it out, I opened a can of worms that I did not, and my message would have gotten lost in that conversation. So that was something that I learned, and I think I need to apply more, because I am an over explainer. I over apologize. Again, I say sorry for it's just a lot. So yeah, but that part, the over explaining thing, I need to start saying less. That's what I got from start saying less, and I'm going to get my point across.
Yeah. He mentioned something about over apologizing in the book, if I'm not mistaken. Because when you, like, in moments where it's not needed, you're doing it, and then when it's needed, it's not carrying weight, that. And then for me, the one thing, if I didn't take anything from this book, this particular line right here, I know you cannot see it. I use invisible ink, but it's printed on my forehead. Two of them. An argument is a window into another person's struggle. Even though it might be hard to see, it's important to find that, especially if, I consider a person, or I consider, a friendship important to me, right? It's important for me to see that way we don't clash. That way our end goal is not walking away, bumping heads, but rather finding, a clear and safe path ahead. And then the fastest way to lose your mind is by giving someone else a piece of yours. Yeah, that part. If you lost me arguing, just know my peace of mind is in my head. You know what I'm saying? And you have no business in there. So let's just let it go and keep it moving. So yeah, that's something that I personally would, not tattoo on me, but kind of tattoo on my brain as I move forward. So appreciate you guys. Thank you all for reading the book. What's our next book, y'all?
Feeding my soul, I think. Yeah, because it's my business.
That's the title? Okay, yeah, it's going to be somewhere here, on the screen for you guys to, cap that, read. So, you have a great listen the next time, we record this. But anyways, man, that's that. Wrapping up this book, The Next Conversation by Jefferson Fisher. There you go. We've explored everything from the power of pausing to the art of assertive communication. We hope this conversation sparked a new idea or new ideas for your next conversation. Remember, as Fisher emphasizes, the goal isn't always agreement, it's understanding and connection. Thank you to our book club members, T, Manny, Josie, Barbara, Hannah, Chuchu. She had to go because it's her birthday. Happy birthday in advance to her. And myself, where am I? Where am I here? Oh, yeah. Book club members for their valuable insights today. Greatly appreciate it. Would love to hear from you. Would love to hear from you. Thoughts on the next conversation. For those who have read it or will read it, would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment. All social medias we're on there, or streaming platforms on YouTube as well. Join the conversation. Like I said, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to interact with you guys on what you guys think. If there's anything that we've said here that does not resonate with you, or you think we just full of crap saying that, please call us out in the comment section. Let us know. Like I said, we love healthy banter. You know what I mean? So engage us as we're engaging you. In this next conversation. Until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep working towards those next goals, better conversations. So I'm Juan Fios from Koleke again, and this is the Book Club crew. We outie.